guess before we really get into it, just general, how's the tour been? Like, have y'all gotten to stop and enjoy anything? I know you didn't really see Austin since...
Yeah, well, this dude's from Austin.
Right.
Sam's from Austin, so you know every little crevasse of this city.
Yeah.
I've luckily been able to enjoy Austin before,
okay.
but we've barely had a chance to stop anywhere.
Yeah.
But we definitely had a good time in Canada. Stopped a little bit in Vermont and saw some sights and scenes and stuff. And yeah.
On the Instagram, I saw you guys found some like Egyptian-looking thing.
Yeah. Oh no, it's pyramid.
Was that like one place or?
Yes, it's one place, and we had absolutely no idea that it was there.
Yeah.
In between Chicago and Milwaukee. It happens to be literally right off the highway from where we were driving. It is the pyramid on our album art from Brunei, their second to last album.
Way.
It is the exact structure that was photographed by Onan himself that I asked for the usage for that album art, which synchronistically, the album art actually has a dark cloud of black smoke with a smiley face inside of it, and the pyramid burnt down last year.
Oh my God.
And now it's inaccessible and nobody can experience it. It's closed off to the public.
Yeah.
And we happen to just be there and see it in its post-glory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just happened upon it.
And just to add another layer of synchronicity, someone I dated many years ago, her parents lived 10 minutes around the corner. So when she saw the photo, she's like, you know, you've been here before, you visited my family here. And I was like, what? I didn't know there was a fucking like pyramid, like blew my mind.
Yeah.
Wow, and how did you end up like finding out that it was there?
Well, we were driving and I saw it off the highway and I screamed because I never thought that I would see it because we don't have a chance to see anything. We just have to go to the next place.
Yeah.
But we happened to be driving on the exact highway that passes right next to it. And I didn't even look up Google Maps how to get to it. I just screeched to the right. I just drove in the direction of the pyramid and we went perfectly to the entrance. And I just screamed again. Just like we happened to be at the exact place that I've always wanted to go.
How do visionary states or hypnotic trance relate to your creativity?
I don't experience any ethereal worlds visually, except for when I use my imagination actively, or when I'm making video art or making music videos. Then it's my sandbox of my own mind.
Yeah.
But it's an active, deliberate composition rather than a passive experience that is existing outside of me.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people when they meditate, they experience visions beyond their own construction or composition, but that's just not me. And that's a part of when you lack something, you reach for it. You know, when you don't have something, you want it. So that's why I invoke these worlds, is because I don't experience them. I did once, there was one experience where I was put in a red chair that encapsulated my whole body when I was 17 years old, and it had speakers inside of it, built in it. And this person did a ritual on me with an Enochian cube and a synthesizer and a microphone going right into the speakers, into the chair. And right when he started speaking in Enochian and playing synthesizer at the same time, I saw everything you've ever seen me create in 1 second, basically. But that's the only experience I've ever had, and that's all I needed, because I could spend the rest of my life recreating that and I still wouldn't arrive at what that experience was.
Wow.
So, sometimes you get it, sometimes you get it in short bursts, or sometimes you get it over the course of a lifetime. Sam is hardwired for experiencing this every day, and you can harness it, harness it in an alchemical way and transmute it into music or something,
I mean, I could tell you just today, when I was dozing off and having a nap, I could feel like all this harmony just pulse through me. Like all these raw ideas just sort of like flowing through me, like this infinite stream that I'm just sort of tapping into. And it's something that happens a lot when I'm like about to fall asleep or sort of in between waking state and I felt it today and I was like, well, like there's nothing I could do about it.
Yeah, you woke up in the van saying, I just heard so many complex harmonies that are organized in an insanely harmonious pattern that you can't document. Unless you knew how to, unless you had absolute perfect pitch and can notate sheet music.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like you spend 3 hours on something that you got in 3 seconds.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So what's the point? It's a mandala. You let the sand erase itself.
Yeah.
But I actually think that you shouldn't. That you should document it for the service of others.
What about the co-evolution of like when you started to animate these worlds? Like, you know, I'm sure you didn't always do that, but eventually the music and the worlds kind of evolved together. So what kind of was the genesis of that?
The Sims.
The Sims?
Because, or Roller Coaster Tycoon, where, you know, you get sucked into this world building and architectural, digital, representational vacuums. And as a kid, you just think, you know, this is great, but as an adult, you think, what can I really do with all of this that I've learned with architecture and, you know, composition and visual, you know, placement of virtual objects. And I eventually translated that into Unity, which is a video game software to make worlds. And it's just like The Sims or Roller Coaster Tycoon with infinite 3D models that you can download for free, infinite textures, no limits. The sky's the limit, literally. No physics. You can create your own physics.
Right.
Once I discovered that when I was like, you know, 21 or something, you know, 9 or 8 years ago, I found my haven, basically. I found my work. I found my abilities fusing into what can be used for work, which is, you know, music videos for artists or anything, interactive pieces for installations or exhibitions or anything, you know. So yeah.
Are there any like non-musical creators that work in those realms that you look to, like authors or animators? Or
Vince McKelvey was a very big driving force. He now works for Adult Swim in the creative content department. He does all the live streams and he coordinates a lot of the in-between imagery and stuff like that. And he made some of the earliest interactive online worlds and downloadable Unity video games that have music with them, and he was a very strong influence for me. And I just happened to email him and say, you know, help me. And he helped me, and now people email me and ask for help, and now I help them, you know, so.
Yeah. You mentioned LSD specifically in Millennial Ballroom, lessons of LSD. I guess since you only had that one major experience, that's like the main informing thing, but like,
I mean,
are there any other sort of transformative experiences that you feel like had an effect?
Yeah, I mean, definitely had an effect in more of like less of a visionary way and more of like an inward acceptance kind of way, you know? Because when you do LSD, your mind projects in front of you and you see your fears and your issues, your insecurities, but also the things you love project in front of you, you know, and the things that you really resonate with in your DNA. Everything just comes to light, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really about applying that, you know? So when I've been on LSD, I've seen a bug from 100 feet away that's this big, and it's not even possible really to see that, but somehow I saw it because it's scary to me, and I needed to access something to deal with it, you know, and that's what it's helped me with. Very rarely has LSD helped with music, you know, but it's helped me with realizing that oversaturating things visually, maybe even sonically too, and you could think oversaturation sonically, what might mean contrasty sounds, lots of high end, lots of low end, you know, but not harsh, I guess. And then a high saturation in colors, obviously more color, that it's really easy to overuse that and make it look terrible, you know. But what mushrooms and LSD can show you is the right universal kind of scheme, the right palette of things that is already everywhere, and it just sort of like gradients those existing colors and patterns for you to experience. And that's why there's so many amazing artists, visual artists, that, you know, have done LSD, that make unbelievable visionary art that I could never do myself, because they're tangibly painting. Or Pablo Armaringo doing ayahuasca since he was in the womb, being able to see into the ether and you know, see the ineffable and everything.
What are your, I guess, traditions for reference that you draw from? You know, like Hermeticism or
Jungian psychology, obviously. Anima is a term that Jung created, which means the female encapsulated in the male, which is a unified field. And you know, me being a man, I want to make feminine music, even though probably most of my fan base is male. But you know, to do that is to become the other and to incorporate it. And yeah, there's Jungian philosophy and you know, I mean, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't practice Hermeticism per se. I don't do magical work besides music. I wouldn't even call that magical work in the way that I do it. I mean, I have used bismuth. I've ingested bismuth, which is a ore. It's a crystal, a rainbow ore. And Pepto-Bismol actually has bismuth in it. It's a very healing property. That's why it's called bismol. Bismuth. And it's the most beautiful, beautiful crystal. Sometimes I'll put selenite and bismuth on a tape machine while it's mastering, or, you know, just in case. Who knows? There's no measurability with
that
this.
Was the secret.
The only measurability is through the composition itself, through patterns, proportional patterns that I know give me goosebumps, that I'm re-collaging because I know it works for myself. Which works for Sam too. The same thing that gives me goosebumps gives Sam goosebumps. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like we have exactly the same resonance, and you do too.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when we're talking about anima, becoming the other, kundalini, it's all about the union of opposites.
Absolutely.
And I feel like this esoteric side of music is the opposite of what you would consider like the superficial pop elements, but you bring that in, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, Sam, you have a sense of that too, right? Like the pop palette and like the accessibility. Like, what are ways you feel like those can reconcile?
I'm always trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, music is mobile architecture, right? And architecture is a space that affects. It's a space. It's not walls. It's a space that affects the people that are inside of it in an energetic, qualitative way. And the most ultimate goal of music is to have, for me, is to have measurable, medically healing properties wherever it's played. Making it mobile architecture in reference to a lot of the ancient architecture, such as the Temple of Karnak in Luxor, Egypt, that it's been measured by R. Schwaller de Lubitz and other academics and biologists and botanists, that plants grow better in the Temple of Karnak as they do outside of it, still to this day. Because there's something with the shape-caused waves of their proportional structure that harmonize some kind of intangible field that is unknown to us still. And the whole purpose is just the reason why pop music works is because it's universal. And you want the music to do its beneficial work in as universal as a way as possible. So that's why pop is the medium or the vessel towards that. Is because it is then more universally mobile in its work. Not to say that I'm achieving any of the benefits that I want it to, but at least it has a further outreach so that it can do its work better, so that we don't all die, basically. The best thing to do is to make a table of correspondences of all opposites, of everything, soft and hard, fast and slow, cold and hot. Make them all, write them down, and then deliberately fuse them all. With your cognition, just actually do it. That's one way that works. The book 777 is a really good example of that. It's an index of a table of correspondences of all the elements and all the stars and all the planets, all the qualities, the quantum leap qualities of energy that are in our local area, I guess.
Yeah.
And Aleister Crowley put them together in an index that you can access. So if you dream about a turtle and the color green and emerald is very imminent, then you can look up those terms and see how they symbolically relate, and then look at their opposite and see how that relates, and then fuse them together.
I see you referencing this idea of harmonious music.
Yeah.
I feel like you are the main proponent of like making that a thing. And I noticed when I listened to the Vinyl Williams Spotify playlists that there's like so many different genres, but I do feel like there's a universal thread, and that is that harmonious.
Yes.
Like it makes sense, you know, but I guess I just want to hear what your feeling is, or expand on that a little more.
I mean, this is something that is so deep because we know it to be true. When we first talked about this, it was so true. Yeah. It was insane. Because you talk about this as much as I did. Even before you met me, you talked about harmony, harmonious music, everything, because you believe in it and you feel it, and even though it's rare that you find people that really are invested in it, it's real.
It's real. I mean, even in the context of Zorch, there are many songs where I would write the bass lines.
Really?
People don't really know that.
Yeah.
But I would write the bass lines because I was the harmonious guy. Like I care so much about harmony. With Zach, he's like, whatever. Sounds, melodies, shredding, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm like harmony and rhythm. Yeah. Those are where I emphasize music.
Yeah.
So it's always been at the forefront of like my just what I accentuate and want out of music.
I think there is some sort of I forgot what exactly they said. I think the guy from Battles said that like something along the lines of truth is revealed in a wall of sound. Like there's something mystical about that, even if it's not
And I think the Battles is a good example of like postmodern music, which I think is just as valuable as like emphasizing postmodernism is just as valuable as emphasizing harmonious music. It's just different like approaches.
Right.
Like Talking Heads is like postmodern, you know?
Yeah.
And then like My Bloody Valentine is all about harmony. Sure. Doesn't even matter what the lyrics are, just as long as it feels, it's all about feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love both, and I'm always caught between both worlds of like what I want to make or like but at the end of the day, I value what I feel, and I think I'm always drawn to harmonious music as like my primary thing that I'm drawn to, and the thing that I desire for me to feel healed, which goes back to what you were saying about music being a healing force. You know, Vinyl Williams for me is very healing, you know? Whereas Zorch is more postmodern.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more emphasizing postmodernism. I kind of think of postmodern music as like food. You know, like Beck Odelay is just food, candy. I'm just like eating colors and textures.
Yeah.
Whereas like something like Vinyl Williams is more feeling, and like it's in here. It's different. It's like in a different part of your mind and body, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally covers different, which is why they both have to exist, because they're both valuable and they both cover different parts of the human psyche and body.
Yeah, postmodernism is so completely polarized from harmoniousness because they reflect on the mediums itself to become aware of the medium, such as John Baldessari's paintings of dates. He would paint the date that he's painting, the painting of the date he's painting the painting, you know? Mm-hmm. That's what his art was. And it's just to realize that this is a frame, this is a canvas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It basks in its meaninglessness when us on the polarized side are reaching for the carrot of meaning, you know? Because we know Frisian, which is goosebumps made by music, is a universal thing. It is not as subjective as we think it is. Because your biology doesn't lie to you. The only thing we know for sure is that we exist. And I would say the only other thing we know is what gives us Frisian. Because it's not us who decides, it's our body. If something resonates, that's the truth. Because it's not, maybe with angsty music, it's different because, you know, we have something to get out, we want to share it, we want to be part of something as well. But there's also something deeper, this harmonious nature that is very universal because, look at the most famous, the most popular bands in the entire world. You know, they all employ deep levels of harmony, such as Tame Impala, such as Radiohead, even Coldplay.
So how did both of y'all basically navigate the like music world, and you know, with these playlists and stuff, like how do you happen upon what you consider harmonious music? What are you like, what does your search look like?
So many different things. Friends. You gotta have friends. You can't rely on Last.fm anymore. It doesn't even work.
Yeah.
You gotta have friends. You gotta, when you listen to music with your friends and you like the same thing, you have to get everything out of that person that you can't. It's not just a fleeting thing, you know. The people in your life are all the pantheon of aspects of yourself. It's all projection. You notice how all your friends are the different versions of yourself if you were in different dimensions?
Sure.
Like all your problems disassociated in different ways are all projected with your friends. So they all know different aspects of this unified field that we're touching upon better than we do.
Yeah. Yeah, friends have been the best way I discover music. Number one.
Because they know what you like.
Sometimes better than I do.
They know what you like better than you do.
Yeah, where I'm
And
like, oh my God.
They were like, hey, I want to show you this one song because I thought about you when I heard it.
Right.
You know, and then you hear it and you're like, oh my God, this is real. You know, this is not just me. This is a real thing. Other people get it.
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time, I thought I was alone. You know, and like, when I was 10 years old, I didn't even like music because I grew up with Air Supply. I grew up with 80s AOR, West Coast, adult contemporary, middle of the road music. You know, not to say that Air Supply isn't great, but that's what I thought all music was.
Right.
I grew up in studios. My dad is a session drummer, you know, and everything. I just grew up in studios, and I just was like, this is pretty gross. But then, at some point, you get glimpses of that resonance that you cannot. I couldn't just let that go.
Yeah.
Because it was very powerful. You know, it's extremely powerful.
Sure.
And one good website that is good outside of your friends is Radio. Have you heard of that website? Radio.com. It's a great website. You type in, it's a map of the world, and you go to a country, and then you type in the decade you want, and then it just shows you Egypt, 1972. What stuff was released that year?
Yeah.
But it's all based on user uploads.
Right.
So sometimes there's nothing. But you know, that's one way I found Egyptian dream pop yacht rock from the early 70s.
Yeah.
Like when I first discovered this song Ayonha by Hamid Al-Shairi, he was an Egyptian yacht rock dream pop dude from the 70s. What could be better than that?
Yeah.
And like, I heard it and I was just blown away. It's just so harmonious. So it's a real field that I connect with. Every moment of that song, I'm like, this is so real. Not even just the fact that it's from Egypt, but just that harmony, you know?
Yeah.
And I think on Spotify it had like less than 1,000 plays, you know? And now it has hundreds of thousands or something, you know? So it's just, it's a natural, sometimes you have to be the progenitor of, I'm not saying I was, because a lot of people got into it at the same time. Just like how whenever one frog learns something new, all the frogs around the world learn the same thing within 5 minutes, you know. Not literally, but it's a collective conscious thing. That's beyond measurement and beyond knowing. It's just a feeling and something we can impress upon. The impression is the really important thing.